Hi, my name is Melanie Rose, and today we're going to talk about CSS measurement units. What are CSS measurement units? CSS supports a number of measurements, including absolute units such as inches, centimeters, points, and so on, as well as relative measures such as percentages and units. You need these values while specifying various measurements in your style rules. This came from tutorialspoint.com. And so that means that you really need to know, if you're styling by the box model, do you want it to be 30 pixels wide? Do you want it to be 30 centimeters? Or do you want it to be 30 ems? So let's talk about the different kinds of CSS measurement units. There are many different CSS measurement units, but I'm only going to go over the ones that are mostly used. Let's look at some common CSS measurement units, starting with percentage. Percentage defines a measurement as a percentage relative to another value, typically an enclosing element. So if you want your line height a little bit bigger than 100%, you put in 125. If you want it smaller, you can always make it smaller. So let's see some examples. So let's look at this paragraph here. The size is set to 100%. But watch what happens when I set it to 125%. It makes it bigger. You can set it as big or as small as you want. So this is 175. You can even go 75% and make it smaller. This can come in handy for things that you need to make bigger and to stand out, or things that you need to make smaller to maybe put in a footer or something that's not as important. Now let's look at how px works. Px, or pixel, is another measurement of CSS. So basically px's are just measured in screen pixels. So let's use the same paragraph over here that we were using for the last example, and we'll put it in pixels. So 16 px is usually about normal. And that's what that looks like. So basically you're just changing the font size, or how big it shows up on the screen in pixels. Now let's talk about ems. Em is the same as the font size of the current element. So the easiest way to remember how to measure an em is that it is the width of the capital letter M. So the default base font size given by web pages is usually 16 pixels. So 1 em is usually equal to 16 pixels. But you have to be careful when you use the em element, because font sizes are inherited by elements from their parents. So different font sizes that have been set by parent elements might not work with em. So be careful when you use it and make sure that it's not inherited. So this paragraph is now set to 1 em, but watch what it does when I make it 2. It's not like when you use a pixel. If you use pixels, it goes by the pixel size of the page or of the screen, but if you use ems, it doubles the size. If you put in 2, if you put in 3, it will triple the size, and so on. So it's important to remember that when you're using ems. Finally, let's talk about the last one, the rm, the root of the em. It works exactly the same way as the em, except that it will always equal the size of the default base font size. It does not compete with inherited font sizes, so it won't have any effect if they are inherited. It sounds like a better option to use the rem, but you have to remember that it doesn't work with some browsers. It's not supported in older browsers of Internet Explorer. But if that's not an issue for you, you might want to try just using the rm. It might work better for you. Now I just want to show you the different types of unit measurements. Percent defines a measurement as a percentage relative to another value. So remember, if you use percent, it's a percentage of whatever your value is for that element. You can also measure in centimeters, but that's not supported wisely, so it's not used. You won't see it very often. M is the relative measure for the height of a font space, and remember how to use M. You remember that M is the width of a capital M. So if your font size is 12 points for your M, then 2M would be 24 points. EX is the value defined by a measurement relative to the font's X height. The X height is determined by the height of the font's lowercase letter x. So if you're going to use that one, make sure that you remember X equals X. Inches defines measurement in inches, but like centimeters, you won't use inches or millimeters very often. PC describes a measurement in picas. A pica is equivalent to 12 points, so there are 6 picas per inch. A point defines a measurement in points. A point is defined of 1/72nd of an inch. Pixels are measured by screen pixels. Viewpoint height is 1% of viewpoint height. Viewpoint width is 1% of viewpoint width, and Vmin is 1 VW or 1 VH, whichever is smaller. So if you would like a PDF copy of the CSS measurement units that I used in my video presentation, you can follow this link, or I will also include it in my post so that you can follow it and get a PDF version. It always helps me to have something to look at. I'm a visual learner, so I like to do hands-on things and not just read. If I just read it, sometimes it doesn't stick. So just remember that CSS measurement units define how big or how small you want your elements to be. Thank you for watching.